When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Only the best will do for mom. So make Whole Foods Market your Mother's Day destination. Shop the floral department for vibrant blooms like tulips, orchids, peonies, and expert-crafted bouquets. Then head to the wellness and beauty department and give mom a spa-like experience with scented candles and more. And if you're hosting brunch or dinner, order flavorful Whole Foods Market catering by May 9th. Celebrate Mother's Day with Whole Foods Market in store and online.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Shit That Goes On to Our Heads, the podcast where we normalize conversations around mental health.
That's right. I'm Dirty Skittles, and alongside my amazing co-host, G-Rex, we are here to share stories and tips from our incredible guests.
Each episode, we deep dive into struggles and triumphs of mental health, offering practical advice and heartfelt support.
Because no one should feel alone in their journey. Join us as we break the stigma and build a community of understanding and compassion.
Tune in and let's start talking about the shit that goes on in our heads.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. I'm Dirty Skittles, and today I'm joined by my amazing co-host, G-Rex. And
Yo.
I feel like you're like a veteran now to Shit That goes on in our heads. We're here with Valerie. Welcome back. Do we need a drum roll?
Thank you so much for having me again. Oh my gosh.
I know.
I do feel like a veteran.
Seriously, I saw your name and I'm like, oh yay, we get to talk again. I was so excited.
I am so excited. I was thinking, like, when was the last time we recorded? It was almost like, I don't know, 18 months ago or so now. And maybe
I think so.
But time flies, and I have just been amazed at what you guys have been creating with your show. And I've been following y'all closely. You actually are on my running playlist. Like, I always to listen to your episodes when I'm running a few miles after I drop my youngest off from school. I'm like, oh, let me see what G-Rex and Dirty Skittles has to say. And I just love it. And so I'm so thrilled that I am back on the show to talk more about just really mental health topics. I think this is so important to talk about. And thank you again.
Yeah. So what's changed? How's life since we've last spoken with you?
Oh, life's been good. We've been doing a lot. I've been writing still. It takes a long time to write a book, I'll say.
G-Rex knows, right?
I'm all over that. Yep.
I feel like I've been doing that every day in some capacity, even for 15 minutes a day, just trying to do something because I have my 3 kids that I'm constantly being a driver for, or a cook or a maid, but in whatever little time frame I can get, like, I'll either be writing or I'll be doing something related to like my platform, the To Mom Is to Love platform, and just trying to spread mental health awareness, as well as just knowing that it's okay to not be perfect. I think that's something we all need to hear, not just as moms, but for everyone. But I had talked with Gretchen or G-Rex. I don't know when it was that we talked about it, but I have not talked much about my OCD journey. Like, really, I write about it. I write a lot about it, but I haven't talked about it in my podcast or my writing that much. And I feel called to kind of talk more about that. And I was like, this may be a good topic to talk about with you guys, because I think it's something that, we know about, but I feel like more people need to learn more about what is OCD and just kind of, I don't know. I actually don't have words yet for what I want to say, but just like bringing awareness to the topic.
Yeah, I have tons of questions. Actually, this is something that there's somebody in my family who is undiagnosed, but in just kind of learning a little bit from that experience, I've never asked them questions. So you might be, if I asked you something that's completely off the wall and you're like, I don't want to talk about it, just let me know.
Sure.
Because I think it's more than just everything needs to be perfect, isn't it? There's more of a mental strain.
There's, there's more to it than that. And it's Andrew Huberman, and I don't remember his episode. I listened to a few years ago about the differences between the personality, like an OCD personality and an OCD diagnosis. And I've never been diagnosed with OCD, but I do know that I likely have it just because of what I've experienced before. And he does a great job kind of breaking it down a bit, because it's like wanting things orderly, wanting these things. But when I get in a real like OCD attack, I guess, I don't know what, I've never really put a label to it, but when the OCD alarm goes off, it's a loop that it like besieges your mind. And it is so difficult to get out of that loop. And it really is just this, like, almost like I have to take a different pathway in my brain and completely ignore whatever the obsession is or the compulsion is. And it's something that's just so frustrating, because all you want to do is stop it. But the more you think about it, the more you think about stopping, the stronger it becomes. So if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. How young or old were you when you noticed it, I guess?
Yeah. So I started writing about this. I was actually really young. So when I was, I don't know, like 8 or 9, I would feel the need to do a compulsion, which I didn't know it was a compulsion at the time, but feel the need to do something so something bad wouldn't happen. And I didn't know what the bad happening was. It was just this overall feeling of something bad is going to happen if I don't do X, Y, or Z. And that was, for me, turning the lights on and off in my room. And so I would turn on and off the lights 5 times. It was always a specific number. And so I would do that 5 times, and then I would do it for a couple days. And then I'm like, okay, well, now I have to check the closet. I have to open up the closet door 2 times. And then I have to look under my bed 1 time. And it would kind of evolve, and it would wax and wane, where I wouldn't do this every day of my childhood. It was just maybe a week or 2 it would happen. And then I'd almost forget about it, or distract myself, and then be fine. So I never told anyone about it, though, because I thought it was weird. And like, I didn't really want to say anything. So I'm like, that just seems kind of odd, but I feel like I need to do this, because if I don't do it, then something bad's going to happen.
So interesting to me, because I'm like, I can't even imagine connecting the two for me. Like so it's outside of like my ability to, like, normally I can relate right away and be like, oh no, I get that. But this one, I'm like, what? How do the two make sense and connect inside of there? But there's somebody in my family, now I feel horrible. So I'll tell you a quick little story. There's somebody in my family who, when we were kids, had these weird little quirks, is what we would call them, right? And she, at the time, her mom had a couch that I swear was like a velvet couch. I know it sounds fucking crazy, but she had this velvet couch and velvet pillows. And this person in my family had to have, if you know velvet, if you rub it the wrong way, it leaves kind of like a mark or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, why are you wiggling, G-Rex?
Because it gives me the heebies a little
Okay.
bit. Because okay, I'm
Yeah.
good.
So this person in my family would have to run her arm or her hand or whatever it was across the entirety of the couch and the pillows, and they had to be positioned a certain way. And it became like a compulsion for her because it's a couch, so everybody is sitting in it. Somebody's going to walk by it, somebody's going to touch it, and she would do it all the time. And I feel like a jerk now because I don't think she ever got over that. I think they just got rid of it, right? Or like they would just remove whatever it was because she had that with the fringes on the carpet and everything just had to be a certain way. And if you would walk by and mess it up, really upset her. But I didn't think that there could be this underlying mental, what you just said, if I don't do this, something bad's going to happen. And then you've got asshole dirty Skittles as a kid coming by and just riding on the velvet couch and moving the tassels like such a dick. I'm so sorry if you're listening. I apologize.
At all. I remember thinking in my room, you could see there was never any blinds in my room. And we were by this open country road. So there'd be like people who would drive by. And I'm like, the people driving by are going to think I'm so weird because there were like some kind of strobe light show going on in my room. But I never really knew. But I mean, I knew it was odd, but I was just like, oh, whatever. I'm not going to say anything. But to be honest, though, I think for the longest time, like the thing with OCD, and I think that it's almost like a friend. I don't know if I'd say friend, that sounds, but it's this a part of me that I enjoy as well, I guess I should say, where I am motivated to do a lot of things because of my OCD. Where when the OCD is not overtaking my life, I can get a lot of stuff done, more so than I would say kind of the average person, which makes me feel, oh, the OCD can help me. It can be this thing that can help, but then sometimes that'll flip and then it's almost like you're a slave to your own thoughts, if that makes sense. And I know I'm not very eloquent with it, but I feel like this is something that we need to talk about to get out in the open. So I appreciate you guys giving me space. This is like the first time I've ever actually talked about it. I've written about it. If I was going to talk to anyone about it, I wanted it to be you guys.
Okay, so I have a question. So now, you're into your adult life, you have OCD. How do you calm your brain? Because with OCD, you are on all the time, right? And with me, so I have adult onset ADHD. I have the attention span of a 2-year-old on crack. I really do. But I want to know how you, as an adult, deal with your OCD.
I think that's a great question. So honestly, I think it waxes and wanes. So I think that, and also it was different as an adult when I was pregnant and postpartum, and as an adult when I wasn't in that stage. But I would say for the longest time, I felt shame, I guess would be the right word, for sometimes not feeling. So a lot of times, like my mind, my OCD as an adult would go to worst case scenario. It wasn't like something bad would happen as a child. That's what I would think. But as an adult, it was like worst case scenario is going to happen. I was anxiety girl. There's this drawing out there on the internet that says anxiety girl, able to jump to the worst case scenario in a single bound. That is me. But at the same time, it affected, sorry, I'm like trying to collect my thoughts with it. Like it affected what I couldn't turn it off. It was this, like when I was working, oh, well, something bad may happen. I have to stay longer at work. I have to, do whatever it is.
Yeah.
So this worst case scenario doesn't happen. And the worst case scenarios were scary. My brain, I don't even know where it would come up from. It would just pop in my mind. And I wanted it to leave my mind. And this compulsion was almost like the safety mechanism of, okay, it's going to leave my mind if I do this. But then it really made it stronger. And so the first counselor I saw back in my 20s mentioned, oh, I think you have OCD, or this sounds like OCD. So she recommended this really great book. It was called Brain Lock. And I'm trying to remember the author, but he talked about it from a physiological standpoint. or like a neuroscience standpoint of there's literally a different part of your brain that is looping. And you have to identify that thought and say, this is an OCD thought. It's not me. It's the OCD. I remember him like saying that direct quote. It's not me. It's the OCD. And then he had a couple other steps, but essentially it was then distracting yourself like for at least 20 minutes and just taking some other, just literally doing something else. So if I think of doing a compulsion, I will then go and do the dishes, or sometimes I even have to go running or something. So now the more, and that's kind of like really a lot of what I started writing about was this, like the practice. You have to keep practicing it to get that to be stronger. The more I practice that, the more stronger it would get. But at the same time, it would wax and wane. There are certain things still to this day that I get really scared to even enter in a situation because I know the OCD will be back. And so I kind of just label it as, okay, this is an OCD thought. It's not a Valerie thought. It's an OCD thought. And then just leaving it alone. Like sometimes I'll tell that to my husband. I'm pretty sure this is the OCD if I'm getting into a kind of a thought spiral, worst case scenario. And usually Matt will be, yeah, it's definitely the OCD. But like in my mind, I don't know. So I don't know if that answers your question, Gretchen, but I think labeling it as such and then doing something different, if that makes sense.
It does. And so I know that you're dipping your hands in a lot of different buckets right now. When you're dipping your hands in those different buckets, how does your OCD play into that, right? I don't think I'm even asking the question right.
Yeah.
I know you're doing a lot of stuff with like summits and writing your book and raising a family and trying to live your life and not go crazy. And so like, how does OCD play into all of that?
Yeah. So I think that it was the start of it was the start of all my writing. It was the start of everything that I had to do because I had to practice different ways of thinking if I was going to not think about worst case scenario, I had to take what I kind of call a mental back road. I had to take a different thought loop and I have to do something different.
Shop in store at Adidas and find the latest trends and iconic fits for spring. From legendary superstar and Samba kicks that go with any outfit to the newest workout gear, shoes, and apparel. Find your nearest Adidas store and shop it all today.
I realized with time that I could do that with other aspects of my life. If I have negative self-talk, I can take a different thought loop and say, that's just a thought. A thought is a thought. And I don't have to believe that thought. So if I have, I'm a bad person or I'm a failure, whatever that is, I can just ignore that thought. And some days are easier than others. Some hours are easier than others. But I think the fact that I was able to kind of do that a bit with OCD made me more aware that I could do that with other aspects, that I could, I could practice any kind of brain pathway differently. I can work around any kind of just not weird, that's not the right word, any kind of just sticky thought, if that makes sense. Like we all have sticky thoughts. And which one is an OCD one versus which not, it's hard to say. Sometimes they blur together. Sometimes they're obvious that one's OCD, one's not. But thoughts are really just thoughts. Like OCD maybe can exhibit itself in a loop. I mean, some things can be really kind of go overboard with OCD of like me thinking, like when I have to go for a trip, for example, I have to do stuff with the stove, lock the door, a couple of times. So I just have Matt do those things. I'm like, I know it's OCD, but it's the same thing of like, I have to say, this is what it is. It's just a thought. I think Andrew Huberman describes it as like pop-ups on a screen. Like you can exit out. Like we give our thoughts too much credit. So I think in answer to your question, that's what started everything, where I think it was this, I felt like a failure. Like I felt very kind of less than because like I had all these like, I don't know if it wasn't crazy thoughts, but it was just like constant onslaught of thoughts that like, it just, if I was able to conquer that, I could do other things. I could help other people. So I wanted to write about it. And like when I focused a lot of my platform on moms, and that's mostly because I think that's when I really started to understand that I needed to do something different with my thoughts, because if I don't, then I'm going to be passing it on to the next generation. And then, the way I appear in my head versus the way I am on the outside is different. And so I can create new patterns. I can, travel on these mental back roads, which I kind of, with my writing, we'll talk about gratitude or mindfulness or whatever. Those are really, like, a lot of them are just distractions of a negative thought. But over time, you can build different pathways, and those can be stronger and those can be highways. So that's what I would say to that, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I have a question. You mentioned you can get stuck in a loop.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just, well, not just, but are those loops what's going on inside your brain? Like the thought is the loop?
It's a sensation. And like, I think that I've really tried to educate myself a bit more, at least with my own OCD. Like, I can't speak for other people's, but I know for me, it's the sensation. It's that fight or flight. It's like a fight or flight bomb goes off in my head. And so it's not really the thought itself. It's the feelings of this like immediate spiked heart rate,
Wow.
And it's anxiety. That's what it's anxiety. And like, we can say, we can get anxiety from whatever stimulus or whatever it is, but it's just this. I wish I had words for it. I don't know if there's words in the English language for it, to be honest, but I would say the one that I knew, or I guess that I know how to describe the most, is when I was postpartum with my second. I was so scared that something bad was going to happen because we had the NICU experience with my first. And I was convinced that something was wrong. And I had doctors that weren't, obviously, we had some amazing providers. There were other providers that did not have the best bedside manner. And that's a topic for another discussion. But I was convinced that the doctors were missing something. So I would go, I couldn't stop going to doctors or to other healthcare providers. Like, there's something wrong and you are missing it. And the doctors or the healthcare providers would be like, I don't know why you're so worried. Everything's fine. I don't know why. There was a lot of that, but it was just this sticky thought I couldn't get out of. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I think for somebody like me who doesn't know much about it and like just basically basing everything I know off of it from what I've seen on TV or in movies and stuff, it's usually, what you see. It's what you can see, I guess. That's literally the point. These are the things I can see that I, know to be OCD. But the mental side of it, you don't see that. And I'm learning that there's more to it than just the physicality of however it presents, right? I can't imagine, especially as a mom, anybody telling me that my thought or what I believe is not true, right? I can only imagine how difficult that must have been to get out of that and because you're identifying it, this is an OCD thought. I can't even, that blows my mind just to think about the turmoil of that,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a process to kind of understand and to understand that I know that Brain Locked did such a great job of giving the reader grace because there's so much shame wrapped up in a lot of the thoughts. And it's like, why can't I stop thinking? Or why can't my brain stop? But saying like that, it's not you, like it's whatever this is, and recognizing things that make it worse. If I lack sleep, or I know like what I was saying, like with the traveling, is that like I know that I'll do it. And to be honest, there's other situations that like really will ramp it up, especially like doctors' offices, stuff like that, like medical things in general. I don't know if there's like a trauma component with it with the NICU, or who knows. But like I'm almost like too scared to even talk about it. And I can do lives, I can do all sorts of stuff on stage, but to talk about the OCD, it gets so scary. There's this very scary thing to it. And that's why it's like, gosh, I feel like more people struggle with it than I think we really realize, but there's so many people so scared to talk about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I have another question. So when you're going through like a episode of OCD-ness, right?
Yeah.
How do you ground yourself?
I will distract myself. And for me, distracting myself is going outside. It is sometimes cleaning. It is literally doing something completely unrelated to what I'm thinking about. So I have talked about, and this is not really specific to OCD, but like with mental negative talk, for example, like if you are thinking of a negative thought, comparing it to John. So John Gottman, he's a marriage researcher. He talks about 5 positives to 1 negative. And so like couples who have relationships that are not having issues, usually they will counteract a negative thought to 5 positives. I have to look up exactly how he describes it, but it's something similar to that. But the relationship with yourself, relationship with your own mind is such an important relationship that I feel like you can kind of apply it to your own mind. So I try to, I talk about it a lot. I don't necessarily do it as much as I should, but I want to practice it more. If I have a negative thought, or if I have a thought of something worst case scenario, I try to counteract that with 5 positives, with a sticky thought, okay, well, for example, if I say I'm a failure, well, here's what I did today. Like I was able to, go outside. I'm grateful for that. I just trying to counteract it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
it does. Please tell me if this is
No, you're fine.
Too triggering, but are you able to give an example of a sticky thought?
With OCD in particular?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Only if it's safe. I don't want you to dig into something.
It's good practice for me. So this was a long time ago. I haven't had this sticky thought in a while, but it is something that I know some people with OCD will struggle with. And I struggled with it a while ago. When I got really stressed out one time, it's almost like there's this threshold where you're fine. And then you hit this OCD threshold, and then the floodgates open up and your thoughts get obsessive and it just gets bizarre. So anyways, I hit that threshold and I couldn't drive because I kept thinking that I hit someone. I could not drive the car. It was very hard I remember at the time, it was before I was married. I was driving to see Matt, when we were still dating. And I was convinced every car that I passed, I hit. And I never did, but was so scared of that. And so I would call my dad and Matt a lot. Yeah. When I would get a thought like that, I would call probably 5 or 10 times at least, saying, what would happen if I hit a car? Would I know? Would I hear a sound? Would I feel something? And they were so annoyed. They were so annoyed, which understandably so. This is ridiculous. And I keep calling. And it's like that shame of, I know this is so ridiculous of a thought, but it got to the point where I would turn around sometimes and look to see, are there any cars? What? So yeah. I would say that was a big one when I knew something was not right, because other people wasn't happening to other people. And Matt and my dad, they would say, this isn't normal, but they didn't know either, it was OCD. And I think a lot of it, I'm a healthcare provider, and no one really ever even, I guess I didn't really talk about that either, because it was kind of embarrassing at the time, but still, I would do other things, like just checking the charts so obsessively. I would just keep being like, okay, well, let me double check to see if what I wrote, did I have a period at the end of that? Did I have a comma at the end of that? Just kind of things like that, but no one really ever said, oh, maybe you should see someone for the OCD. It was almost like I had to finally admit that to myself. And I think, not to say that my dad or Matt should have been telling me that, but I think that's what I think is important about spreading awareness, because sometimes with OCD, you can only do so much with thought practice, like we've been talking about. I'm proud of myself that I've been able to do as much as I could, but there's a certain point where you almost have to, I don't know if I would say have to, but for me, at least, I had to start medication, because you can only do so much. I think for me, it was, and not to say I know that's not the case for everyone, but it once I started medicine for it, it just felt so, it's like when you put on, well, I have glasses and I'm so, my eyes are so bad. But I remember when
Mine too.
Yeah, when I was in second grade, I remember thinking before I had glasses, like, that's how you saw. That's like how the chalkboard should be blurry. I think I'm dating saying chalkboard, but
Totally get it. You
You're
don't
not dating
realize.
yourself.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't realize how crisp and clean everything is until you get glasses, and then you're like, oh, this is what y'all were seeing this whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really so much of how I felt after like I started on medicine. I was like, this is how people think, or not even think, but this is how you can live life. Like, you don't have to be a slave to your thoughts. Like, not that it was perfect by any means, but like it took that edge off. And I really think like I don't like to say, this is hard. I don't like to say the word suffering because that's not what I was doing, but I almost feel like other people can suffer from these thoughts. And if I can raise awareness for someone to say, if you're experiencing something like that, talk to your healthcare provider to see maybe it is OCD or there's things that you can do that are particular. I remember one therapist, he had great intentions, but he almost made the OCD worse because talk therapy wasn't really helping. It was making it worse when we kept talking and talking about the obsession, as opposed to just saying, oh, we need to label this as an OCD thought and move on and distract ourselves. Because that's really what was
the coping of it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So you mentioned take the medication for it and it takes the edge off.
Yeah.
But does that mean that you're still you're still identifying obsessive thoughts even with the medication? It doesn't just silence the echoes of all the thoughts that are happening. They're still there.
I mean, I would say I can only speak for myself with this, but I would say, the OCD doesn't happen all the time. So I can go months at a time without having it, but it's usually around medical things. If I go to a doctor's office, like that's for me, that'll be a trigger. Then it'll take the edge off then. So like when I can fairly easily, not easily, but I can recognize, it's like a good old friend that shows up.
It's that ex that calls you again after. No, just kidding. Hey, girl. Remember me?
And I think before I knew that was the OCD, it was just more shaming. Where it's like, oh, this is this annoying part of me that won't stop. But now it's just, it makes it not as shaming, I guess. So to answer your question, I would say for me, it takes the edge off when I do experience an OCD attack, but the attacks aren't very frequent now because I know other lifestyle things. Like I know sleep can help. I know, keeping busy, but I have to make sure that I don't go above that threshold. And that's where I think kind of that blurry line of OCD personality versus disorder. There is kind of this threshold of, I just want to keep doing stuff. And I know a lot of people are like that, where I'm like multitasking, like I'm trying to post something on social media and running at the same time. I fell off and cracked my phone the other day.
Oh no.
Maybe I should calm it down a little. And so I think that's some of that personality, but it's not necessarily, like the besieging thoughts. And I remember one of the first things I wrote when I started actually becoming serious about, okay, I'm going to write a book about 4 years ago. I wrote anxiety, and anxiety can come in so many forms. OCD is just like one form of it, or one, what's the word? I'm blanking on the word, but different types of anxiety. But I looked up, where does the word anxiety come? And it comes from, worry, I guess. Worry comes from the word, and Wygran literally translates to seized by the throat and tear. Like when I read that, I'm like, that is how I feel with.
I was like, pretty accurate, actually.
Yes. I know, right? When you're getting anxious, like not even like whenever there's that anxiety, because it's the same. Like when you have an OCD thing or anxiety, panic, it's all that fight, flight, or freeze response. Like you can have a thought loop wherever it's coming from, or a trigger, from something, but it's that amygdala, it's that fear center that will cause the Wygran. And it's just awful when you experience it, but how do we get out of it? Recognizing, and that's kind of where like my whole platform comes, where it's not specific to OCD, but it's recognizing, okay, I'm having a reaction. I'm having this anxious, this worry response. Let me time out, lengthen my space, and do something else and do something different, and choose gratitude, choose mindfulness, maybe just choose kindness, go smile at someone, think of, do something that's not whatever this worry.
See, I have to say this. And I don't know if G-Rex can guess what I'm about to talk about because I've mentioned it so many fucking times. Inside Out 2. Have you seen Inside Out 2?
You know what? I need to watch the whole thing. I have, but just clips. So I haven't watched the full thing through yet.
So the reason I keep going back to this fucking film, G-Rex, did you watch it yet?
No, I'll watch it this
damn
weekend.
it.
I'll watch it tonight.
You need to. Okay, so the reason why I keep going back to this film is I took my son to the theater to watch it. And for our listeners, you should go back and listen to the last couple of seasons. And anytime I talk about this, take a shot. So we're in the theaters, we're watching it, and I struggle with anxiety. I have it can be triggered, right? So I struggle with anxiety a lot. And we're in this movie watching it. And I loved Inside Out 1, didn't expect to cry in Inside Out 2, but there is this fucking scene because one of the emotions is anxiety. And as an adult, I'm watching this film and I've never been able to really articulate what it feels like to have anxiety and to have an anxiety attack. And this film fucking nailed it so good at the end of the movie with anxiety. And I'll describe it for anybody who hasn't seen it. And I know, G-Rex might not watch it tonight, but anxiety, long and short, basically has caused a storm, a tornado to happen because of all the things that she kept trying to do to get to be on this team, right? Like she is fucking, it's a storm. It's a literal tornado and it's windy and it's quiet. And Joy is trying to get into the tornado to fucking stop anxiety. And you just see the storm crazy and you go inside the tornado and anxiety is just still. And I was like, I was like, that's exactly what the fuck it is. But I bring it up and I have to give like the happy side of it is I love that these movies exist because as an adult now I can identify and say, oh, this is exactly what it feels like. But my child is watching it. So I'm like, I just hope that if he ever has that feeling as he gets older, he can identify it's not anything wrong with me. I have anxiety. Yeah. And I fucking cannot wait for that. I mean, I don't want it to happen, but the fact that we're educating children nowadays to know what these emotions are and that there's nothing wrong with you. 100%. I love that. So sorry.
100%, because I can tell you when I was going to school, we didn't talk about this. Okay. We didn't talk about emotions. We talked about emotional intelligence. We didn't talk about anything. Right.
Right.
And I think that if I'd had that education, maybe, when, Christmas Day 2022 rolled around, that I might have been able to handle things a little bit better than I did. I mean, I'm thankful for what I did do, but I didn't like all the feelings that went into that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that and I guess is that Pixar that does.
Yeah.
I swear, whoever's on the writing team for those, they are geniuses. Like with Disney, like I'm just thinking of some other shows as you mentioned that, like with Frozen, with Elsa and the snow. When she says Anna's in the background saying we can fix this together, quieter, and she has snowstorm, a tornado. And then she's just not even listening. And she's covering up her ears. And oh my gosh. And then I don't know. There's so much.
That scene, literally, because her thoughts are so much louder than Anna in the background. Oh, I got it too. I love that shit. I'm like, I just so happy that it's out there for children to learn. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's so important for that emotional intelligence. I think that, depending on, and I can geek out with the history of all that kind of stuff, of what do we value in the generation of, and I feel like with our generation, it was so much of this cognitive, which there's nothing wrong with, but there was like all this, the Mozart effect, smart, let's be smart, blah, blah, blah. And now it's refreshing to see that it's okay, then just being, there's more than just like the cognitive aspect. There's emotions. There's all these other things that can play into our well-being. And so much of the time, like if you don't feel safe, And I don't feel safe when there's a tornado. Like, I just don't. And if you don't feel safe, you can't do anything else. And so it's like, that is really the foundation of everything. And that's why we need to be spreading awareness of this, because if you're having a tornado, or I don't know what kind of visual I'm thinking with depression, but I don't know, an abyss. I'm just trying to think of something.
Literally.
Literally an abyss. A swamp, an abyss, like
quiet. And you're
alone. You know what it is? It's
quicksand.
Quicksand.
You're right.
Quicksand.
You nailed it. Yeah.
There's these visuals that I think like a picture can say 1,000 words, right? And like when anger, like with Moana, and like how there's that, whatever, I don't remember her name, but like the one who got her heart stolen.
The heart of Tafiti.
Yes. And then
I had to say it.
Yeah. But she says something that this has been my most like, I don't know, I've been thinking about recently, of like, she's like coming at Moana, like all pissed.
Angry. Yeah.
And Moana says, they've stolen the heart inside you.
Yeah.
Does not have to define you. And I'm like,
I know. You need to have trigger warnings for parents on these fucking movies.
I'll tell you, I still have not been able to go through. I mean, this is for another conversation as well, but I just am all about talking about mental health. But like with, what is it? Tangled. I still haven't been able to go through Tangled all the way, because that just, that I can't.
Tangled is the one
that's a trigger one for me, with the mom relationship.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Disney, if anyone from Disney is listening, as our geniuses, I haven't gone to Disney World yet. Now I feel like I need to, because
and I love it because when I was growing up, all of the movies were like Prince Charming and the fairy tale, and he's going to save you. Like all the fucking Disney princesses being saved by men. Yeah, it fucks you up, because then you grow up thinking that's your role. A man will come and he will save you. And not really, what did Cinderella prepare us for, honestly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what did I fucking learn from Cinderella? Nothing. What did I learn from Inside Out 2? That I can identify my emotions and I don't have to hide any of them. That they can all work together. Just gotta get my shit together. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yes, yeah. Disney, bless your hearts.
Yeah.
For turning it around.
I agree. And even like, I think about even in the 90s or like early 90s, like with not really Beauty and the Beast. Well, I guess Beauty and the Beast, but like Aladdin. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Beauty and the Beast, like in the beginning scene. They want to go to a faraway world. There's a lot of that too. And I think there was so much of, you can do anything, which is great. You can do anything, but also you got to deal with your emotional battles first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, what happens? Let's talk about Beauty and the Beast. No, I'm just kidding. We should do like an episode though of Disney movies, because
we should.
That would be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all need to do your homework. And apparently I need to go watch a few movies, okay?
Watch Inside Out 2.
I won't do it.
As many times as I have mentioned that fucking movie.
I won't do it. I'm getting yelled at by my co-host.
Yeah, if anybody can tell, it really made an impact on me. It changed my life forever.
I need to watch it all the way through. Yeah.
It's really deep.
Yeah. No, those visuals are so, so powerful.
Yeah.
Another movie that's an old one, but I will give Disney, again, this has turned into a Disney episode, but Disney a lot of credit for Mary Poppins, because oh my God,
yeah.
I did not I mean, there's so many levels of just amazement with the music, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But I was listening, this was actually yesterday. I don't know. I heard that Feed the Birds, which is like one of my favorite songs, where I like just cry every time, because I used to sing it to my oldest when she was a baby. And I'm like, but then I was thinking, what do they mean by feed the birds? And they mean this acts of kindness and tuppence. Mm-hmm. And I was looking this up to see. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's probably open to interpretation or whatever. The next song is about tuppence at the bank account and how, here's what you should use your money for. You should save it, do all this. But then the guy at the end, he sings about, flying a kite. And here's what you buy your tuppence for. And instead of soaring high with whatever else it is, it's soaring into the sky with a kite, and the simplicity. And I was like, Disney, you've been doing this for decades.
You missed the mark on Cinderella, though. I'm not backing down.
It's true. Because I don't think I learned a whole lot, other than I did
like poor Cinderella. No, let me not get it.
the dad of that prince was quite a kook. I don't know if you remember him jumping up in the bed.
Yeah. Literally. Sleeping Beauty, horrible. I'm just kidding. We're just going to go through the old ones. But yeah, no, maybe they'll do one for OCD to kind of bring us back to where we started. Yeah. Like, seriously, though, because literally speaking with you today, I'm starting to understand the complexity that can be associated with that, right? And I think I did kind of fall into that audience of, if I can't see it, I don't, or I'm only understanding what I can see. And that's not the way to do it. Because like I talk about depression and anxiety and how nobody knows because it's not like a broken leg. And yeah, it's hard, I think, to pinpoint how it feels or what it's like to go through something when there's nothing around us to talk to us about this stuff, like in a movie or.
Absolutely. I think there's not much, and there's not many, you can say depressed, you can say anxious, you could say worried, but there's not many words out there. There's not like a gauge of like how depressed versus how worried versus what kind of worried. Like there's just not, and maybe someday there will be more, but it's almost, and I do feel like the Beazle van der Kolk with the Body Keep score, that mentioned something about drawing. And sometimes, I guess, like with those visuals we were talking about earlier, sometimes if I draw out my thoughts or I draw out my feeling, it makes more sense that way. Then I can remember it. I don't know. And then even with my book writing too, with this whole process, there is therapy in itself, I feel like, with just journaling, because it is kind of like a form of journaling when I'm writing. But what I do sometimes, and maybe I'll do this with you guys too, I will put in, so I'll write about the NICU, for example, and about the OCD, but then I'll put in a nurse doing a conversation or a doctor putting a conversation, but I change the name and I put the name to someone that I look up to, someone that has comforted me. And my brain is almost tricked because I can put in a different name. I can put in a NICU nurse that I talk to on the podcast that I love what she's doing. She wasn't my nurse, but in my book, she's my nurse. And then I'm able to then reprogram a thought differently, and that in itself has been so therapeutic.
Really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it was just this kind of, and so now that I'm like going through and editing my book, I'm like, who else can I put names in? So if you guys are in there, put a G-Rex, Dirty Skittles.
Dirty Skittles.
Hey, whatever.
Like, I picked up some Skittles.
Skittles, right. Yeah.
Something like that.
And then there was Skittles on the floor. No.
And then they were freeze-dried Skittles by the time she got to them.
Dry freeze.
Oh.
Did you tell anybody about your freeze-dried Skittles?
Okay. These are awesome. Like, you can't see them.
No,
Whatever.
It's okay though.
They're freeze-dried Skittles. They're the best.
They really are.
They're addicting.
I'll have to check them out.
Don't eat a whole lot of them at the same time because they have citric acid, and if you have like a reaction to that, you get like cracked lips. But don't ask me how I know that.
And not from experience or anything.
So I have just a couple more questions. What else do you got going on these days?
Oh gosh, what else do I have going on these days? I mean, I think other than just the book and the book launch, I would say, I've been just trying to connect with people that are making a difference. So in addition to you guys, like there's also Amber and Nadim that I've been working a lot with. We've created this impact activators movement where we just both kind of share this vision of changing the world. And I know you guys do too, like of just amplifying voices, creating ripples, joining hands, doing things that create change, like with mental health, with Ambreen and I, we have this education summit coming up, a healthcare summit, just talking about things that need to be talked about that I think, they're just, but in ways that have people listen, I think in just different ways. Like we did back in October, Gretchen was part of this for GREX, like a mental health summit. So we had, it was almost like 48 hours of talk for every 30 minutes. We had someone from around the globe talking about some mental health topic just to show our listeners that we're more alike than different. Like we all share the same goals. And so that was super cool. I really enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed like talking with, Ambrine's in Saudi Arabia, and then Andrea was our other co-leader, and she was in Singapore. So just seeing like the sunset in one place, sunrise in the other, and we're all talking about the same thing, and we're all coming together, which is so cool. So doing that, and then just a variety of other things, just trying to lift each other up however we can. So I'd say that's what I have going on. And then in addition to my chasing my 3 kids around, which I have found that, I try to, it's been really enjoyable with the people that I've met, and also trying to figure out how, because I don't have enough hours in the day to do everything I want to do. I have so many ideas, but like when I focus, like the thing is that like the people, I kind of curate my feed, I guess, if that makes sense, where I try to surround myself with people that are empowering, that are giving like positive information and positive things that I can then take about my day. So what I've been doing is I'll walk with the kids to school every day and be mindful for 15 minutes. Like I'll put my phone away. Like I'm trying to still be intentional, and not just, I don't know. I think there's so much of this like consuming with social media, but if I can learn with social media, I can curate my feed, and just trying to do these little things here and there, because I don't know, our time is like only so many hours in the day I can do things. So I'm trying to at least do what I can. But some days are easier than others. And also giving myself that grace too, that I also need to relax too.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate you sharing this with us, and I can't wait to hear more about your book and how you're finding your way through that and describing it and sharing it with everybody.
And thank you so much.
And thank you for teaching me about OCD, because like Dirty Skittles, I don't know a lot about it, but now I want to go out and learn more. And
yes. And I thank you so much, you guys. And I am kind of just, it's my own story I share, but there's so many people doing incredible things. Like someone I've recently met is this Melissa. I'm blanking on her last name, Melissa, but she's with New Orleans OCD Rise. They have an OCD camp. Like they have one of my good friends, Hannah. She does OCD for Postpartum International. So there's so many sources out there. So it's my pleasure to raise awareness for it. And thank you for giving me the space to be able to do that. I truly appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. We love you. And thank you so much. Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys. It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.
Find your American Express card and start earning rewards with cashback and bonus points on your everyday purchases, like dining in or eating out, shopping at your favorite retail stores, or picking up groceries. You can earn rewards when you use Amex. See if you pre-qualify with no impact on your credit score. Learn more about our offers at americanexpress.com/check-4-offers. Your credit score may be impacted if you submit an application. Terms apply.